Today we're going to read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 27. Ichya dvesha sammuthena dvanda mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of foe, all the living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Desha Tarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasahadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Bol, I welcome you today to the Sunday feast. And today we are going to discuss chapter 7, verse 7, where Krishna is mentioning how we are born into delusion, and that delusion is because of the desire that we have in our heart and the hatred that we have in our heart. I don't know if we need translation to Portuguese.
I don't know.
I think they're okay.
Was it? Okay. So before we begin reading chapter 7, verse 27, I'd want to ask a few of the volunteers, and the question would be, how long it took you to reach here? Here is in probably
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Any more?
20.
20 minutes.
60.
60 minutes. Okay. So the answer is
35 years.
35 years. Right.
One
We are one.
Taking into
Yeah.
account you know, the-
1 million years.
So we are ahead there and a million years. So whenever we say how long it's taking us to reach here, we would say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 35 years, 1 million years. And I think it took us million and billion of years to come here in contact with Krishna consciousness, because in general terms we see
More than 1
you
million.
shouldn't be disturbing me from next time.
No, but more.
More.
That's more than 1
So
million.
basically, if we see in here, we feel that it's just a matter of time today. But then if we see to come in contact with devotees and to actually get Srimad Bhagavatam in our life, and Bhagavad Gita is like very, very rare thing. And probably we might have done some good work, some pious activity. That's why today we are here in association of each other, and then we are listening the glories of the Lord, and to actually imbibing all those good qualities in us so that we can become better devotees tomorrow. So in this verse, Krishna is actually mentioning that because we are bewildered by the dualities that's arising from desire that we have and the hatred that we have in our heart, and because of that we are born into delusion. So we'll try and understand what is our real position and what are we meant to do when we come here in the Holy Land as Mother Earth. So let's try and figure it out in here. So earlier in chapter 2, we've seen Krishna is explaining how the lust is later transformed into greed and then anger, and he mentions that lust, anger, and greed is gateway to hell. So basically, for my understanding, is like, imagine you're walking across and you see a beautiful poster, rather it be of perfume or maybe a new iPhone Pro Max 16, 17. So generally we might not need a phone, but then because when we see the advert, the intention is like, oh, I wish I could get that phone. My friend has a Max one and I don't have Max, I just have normal without Pro Max or thing. So basically the desire is there created when we see something, and that desire will ask us to contemplate lot many things. When I was young during my college, there were boys who really wanted to have bike and they wouldn't eat food. Probably Divya Prabhu could relate something same in Bangladesh. They wouldn't eat food, and like the parents were like forced to buy the bike because he was or she was not following the track as they should as children. So it's like creating a pressure, and that's because we have a desire to enjoy with the material senses that we have. So then if we get the thing, we are like, oh, my bike will get scratched, do not touch here. Oh, my phone, be careful, it will fall down. So we are like greedy of one sense that it will be destroyed, and the other sense that we want to gratify the senses more and more. And if we don't get it, then we are angry because we contemplated so much and then we couldn't get the thing that we desired. So that is how lust, anger, and greed is going to work. In here we see that we have desire and hate, but this is slightly a little high class. The desire to be the Lord of everything, and hatred that why is Krishna supreme and why not me? Why can't I be the supreme? So these are the few things that we're going to look into here. So before looking into this particular verse, I would just want to go back to verse number 25, where Krishna says that Krishna is never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent, and by only Krishna's mercy we can actually see him. It's not like, oh Krishna, please reveal yourself and I want to see you. It's not like that. He has to have the merciful glances, then only we can see Krishna. And then in verse number 27, Krishna is mentioning that I know everything, O Arjuna, past, present, and the future. That means what we know from here. We know that Krishna should have or glance his merciful lotus eyes towards us so that we can see Krishna. And second thing, Krishna is mentioning here that he knows past, present, and future. And if we see in verse number 27, here Krishna is mentioning that we are deluded. We are in the bewilderment. And because of this, things are coming to our heart. That means the Supreme Person and the conditioned soul are not the same. They are different. And we can't be the same. This is how Krishna is mentioning in 25, 26, and in 27, we understand what are the flaws that we have in ourselves and how we need to improve it. Am I too fast? My mother says that I speak very fast. I don't know. Because when there's translation, you get a bit of time and you go slow. So, okay. So I'd want to ask a few questions again because I like interactive session. Andrew Prabhu is giving a thumbs up here. So if you want to mention a few personalities from Srimad Bhagavatam who are like attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. No restriction, it could be any.
Rukmini Devi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Sorry? Vyasadeva. So, yeah, Vyasadeva, Kunti Devi. So we have Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, and lot many. And who were the one who were not attached to the Lord's lotus feet, but probably they were thinking about the Lord in a negative way.
Kamsa.
Kamsa, okay. Any more?
Hiranyakashipu.
Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. Super. So what we're going to do is
Mama,
like...
I have one more. Hiranyakashipu.
Yes. So we are going to see how the devotees, when they are surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, what's the feeling, and how a conditioned soul is thinking. What's the feeling of these two personalities? So if we see in here, we have many devotees. Probably if we say about like Ambarish Maharaj and all those personalities, we might think, oh, they're so old, they were in other yugas. Then if we come to little nearer, if we see Yudhishthira Maharaj and then Parikshit Maharaj, they had like opulence, they had riches, they had name, they have fame, but they never thought that I am equal to the Supreme Lord, if that makes sense. They always, whatever they have, they always wanted to offer it to the Lord. Gauranga, you're disturbing me. So that is how we can understand. So basically we'll try and see the father and son duo here. So how how Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu were opponents, and what was the thinking process? How were they thinking in terms with relation to the Supreme Lord? So if we look into Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was at a time so powerful that he was the, I wouldn't say master, but he captured all the three lokas that we have, upper planetary system, middle planetary system, and lower planetary system. There it mentions at a time it was so bad, the circumstances itself, that if Hiranyakashipu would wink his eyebrows, then Indra was cutting vegetables. So if Hiranyakashipu was feeling hot, then Surya Deva would have to go behind the clouds to hide and to give some shade to Hiranyakashipu. So imagine how powerful he was. And his feeling was like, I am Vishnu, I am God. I think you've seen this trailer where devotees are making Narasimha Dev's animated movie, where there also he says that, hey, I am Vishnu. And we've seen Vishnu Puran as well, where he was mentioning the same thing, and we could read here as well, where the differences was that he or most of the demons, they couldn't have the opulence and offer it to the Lord. They were like, I am greater than the Lord. And they forgot that from the Supreme Person itself, we got all those mercy and those opulence. So Hiranyakashipu had a similar feeling, who used to say that he is God. All the Praja would then have to worship Hiranyakashipu alone. And whereas Prahlad Maharaj was like more into serving the Lord. For an example, Hiranyakashipu tortured him so much, but still he had faith in the Lord, and he always chanted Lord's holy name. And we could see at the end how Hiranyakashipu's death was for sure written when Narasimha Dev actually appeared, and then he killed Hiranyakashipu, and he saved his dear devotee Prahlad. This is one of the instances where we see a feeling or an offering of a demon, whereas how a devotee thinks and processes. And in here in the purport, first and foremost thing Srila Prabhupada mentions is that our subordination is to be servant of Krishna and not to be equal to him or enjoy and gratify our own senses. The main idea here is to try and engage Jagannath's senses or Krishna's senses. And when Krishna is satisfied, we all are naturally satisfied. It's personally I have felt this one as well in the past. Like, it might not be a very big changes in here, but it's like a subtle and little small kind of changes, but you could feel it that when you come to Krishna consciousness, you are happy, or probably more happier than what you used to be, and you're more satisfied. Has anyone feel the same?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, little bit, if not more. Yeah, little
You, me,
bit. Okay,
my
so
dad.
so now if we look into Ambarish Maharaj's story as well, the beauty is like when Durvasa Muni came, I think you're all aware about the story, so I don't want to go back. So um, Ambarish Maharaj was fasting, Durvasa Muni just passes by, and then Ambarish Maharaj invites Durvasa Muni for lunch, and he accepts. So he goes to take a bath in the holy river, and because it's taking time for him to come back to lunch, Ambarish Maharaj consults with the Brahmanas and he drinks water. So fasting, breaking fast with water is like, eating and not eating as both. So when Durvasa Muni actually comes to the palaces, he finds out that he drank some water. So Ambarish Maharaj was just sitting there, and then Durvasa Muni pulls a bunch of his hair, and then he creates a very fiery, fearsome demon. So when the demon is actually attacking Ambarish Maharaj, he's not moving. He's not like, oh, don't, please forgive me. He's just like staying as straight as he is, and then he's praying to the Lord. And you know what happens? What happens? Any suggestions? Waranga, what happens?
I forgot.
Oh, that's sad. No, I won't.
Yes.
That's cheating.
Mama.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's about the Sudarshan Chakra.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. So Sudarshan Chakra appears in the scene, and then he starts running behind Durvasa Muni, and then it's going very wild that he goes to all three lokas in a hope that someone would give him shelter. So he goes to Patal, he goes everywhere, then he reaches Brahma Loka, then he goes to Shiva Loka, nobody is able to protect, and he finally approaches Vaikuntha, and there he has conversation. So the main idea here is how Ambarish Maharaj, he didn't move a little bit because he was confident that Lord is going to save him. So the main idea is like taking shelter of his lotus feet and have confidence that if there is any circumstances in my life, that if I'm in danger, the Lord will come and protect me and save me. So now if we look into some other characters, we have
Maharaj.
Ajamil, who fell into lusty desires. This was the desire of being taken over by the material opulences, but these characters or personalities that now we will discuss are mostly going to be the characters or personalities who had lusty desires. Because if we can understand, we see from the past that we fall into those lusty desires which are very difficult to overcome. So if we look into Ajamil's life, Ajamil was a pure Brahmana. He was a very dedicated devotee. But one day as he was walking by in the forest, he saw some vulgar scene there, and he should actually run away from there. But because it was something lusty and probably God wanted to show how it works, then he was looking at it. And he had the same desire to enjoy his life with the lady or the prostitute that he saw. He had 10 sons. The oldest one was named. What was he named? Narayan. So he was named Narayana. So he was like, hey Narayana, come here. Hey Narayana, take this. Hey Narayana, play with the ball. Hey Narayana, come here. So every time he was like directly, indirectly, Narayana. So one day he was old and he was around in his deathbed, and he didn't had no choices but to call his son Narayan. So he was like, Narayan. He's calling his son, but his son was like pretty small. He didn't know what's happening. So when he purely chanted Lord Narayan's name, there came Vishnu Duta. and protected him. So what happened, from one side Yamadutas were there because they were coming to take his body away. Body as in the gross body is still here, the subtle body and the soul. And this way you have Vishnu Dutas. So both of them are discussing, they're having a conversation like what to do. So eventually Vishnu Duta wins, and then the body is left there. Yamaduta go away, and there's a different story how Yamaraj then educates or probably preach the Yamadutas whom not to touch. And just coming in here, I'm reminded of the beads we have in our neck, probably all most of us. So Yamaraj is actually mentioning Yamaduta that whenever you see anyone with tulsi bead around their neck, do not touch them. They are Krishna's, Vishnu's devotee. So it's very essential to have one. So that is how it goes on. Then the person who's in the deathbed realized everything. Oh, so they both came. I actually saw they did conversation for me, and because of Lord Narayana, I'm safe today. I'm saved. So later he realizes how his life went into a degraded form from the post of Brahmana. Then he atones, and later he goes back home, back to Godhead. So the moral of the story is that we have to be surrendered onto the lotus feet of the Lord. I am saying it repeatedly because it is only the way. And the other is that we have to know that we are the servant of the Lord. We are subordinate to the Supreme Lord, so that we know that He is the supreme enjoyer, and then we have to try and gratify His sense and not ours. So if we see in here, Prabhupada is mentioning, due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Krishna appears by his internal potency, but those who are deluded by dualities and naysayers think that Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. So if we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Creator, and He created everything. And He is not, we are conditioned by three modes of material nature, which is Satagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. But Krishna is not one of them, who is conditioned by the material modes. And if in the earlier verses also we've double checked and confirmed that Krishna knows past, present, and future, and then he can present in front of anyone, or if he doesn't, if he does not want to present, then it's all up to him. It's not like we can say that, hey, you have to be present in here, right now. That doesn't work. If he wants, he will. If he doesn't want, he don't want to. That's okay as well. So it's basically we have to depend on his mercy. It's working like that. And in this verse, we understood how Krishna is different from the conditioned soul. But few people, by avidya, ignorance, they think that, oh, he's just an ordinary human being. He's an avatar. He just came as a human boy and showed some magic. That is what Brahmaji was also thinking when Aghasura was killed. He was thinking Krishna is a magician and not the supreme person. So we'd have to try and understand that that the goal is not to be one with the Lord. The goal is to be
a devotee of Krishna.
To be a devotee of Krishna. To be subordinate to Krishna and to serve his senses, not our sense. So the main difference is like we have desire, we have hatred, and now we have result. So the desire of a conditioned soul is like, I am the master of my senses and I am going to enjoy my sense. Whereas the desire of a devotee is, I have to serve Krishna's senses and I am subordinate to the Lord itself. And then hatred is, why is he God? Why am I not God? Imagine while we're traveling by a train and then if something goes off, we are stuck there. We are not even able to come out from that situation. So how can we be God? I think you've heard this famous pastime where a person is coming to Srila Prabhupada and he says, Swamiji, I am God, I am God. And then Srila Prabhupada says that, okay, we have God here, so prepare byanjans, different kind of food offering to the God. And in a big plate he's served 54 different kinds of food, and then he eats 1, 2, 3, and later on he can't eat, and then he says, Swamiji, where's the toilet, bathroom, I need to go. And then he's Srila Prabhupada then shows the toilet, and then he locks from outside. Then the so-called God is actually asking for help, saying, Swamiji, please open the door. And then Srila Prabhupada says, you said you are God, you can come out. You said you are God, you can complete the whole food. So then we have tests in here. Also Srila Prabhupada mentions that when I'm writing Bhagavad Gita, in India, in every other street, there are people who are claiming that they are God. So we have to know who's God. We have to have the back-end information about the God. And I think it's when we have the information, it's a lot more easier, if at least not to preach, to be safe. Because if I don't have no information about God, then anyone can come and say a few things to me and I am puzzled, I am bewildered, because I don't have no back-end information. Who's God? How's the material world created? So we need to have the back-end information so that we can identify and distinguish between what is wrong and probably what's right. And then the result. So the result is when a devotee is surrendered and he thinks about Krishna's senses and he thinks that he is subordinate to the Lord, then the result is he will have eternal life if he goes back to Godhead. If not, at least in present life, he will attain peace. Gyatva mam shantim richati. So he will have shanti, he will have peace. And a conditioned soul, he is up to gratifying his own senses, and he is the Lord. He wants to become one with the Lord. In that sense, he will be falling into the cycle of repeated birth and death. And that is where the question comes. How long has it been, or how long it took you to come here? So we know the reason why now. Make sense? That we discussed how long it took us, and we know the answer why it took us so long. Because we've been falling into this desire and hatred of lording it over the material world, that I am the master, I like this, I like that. So this is the reason why we are falling over. And probably you might have a question, why? What's the actual reason? So Prabhupada, if Prabhupada was asked, and when Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada would say that if you see a drowning man, we just would have to help them, not like why he drowned, how he drowned. That's not the question. So similarly in here as well, it's not like how we came. The main thing is like how can we get out of the material pool that we're already into. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So that would be the main idea, to try and get out of the material pool as soon as we can, or probably start from today. Dovetail your life with Krishna consciousness so that we can go back to God. Life is not very certain. We can say that we will be alive up to 80 or 90. So being prepared and starting bhakti as soon as possible is the best and the safest way to go to God's abode. I think, what's the time? Yeah, so I would want to end here. If you would have any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
So Mataji, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the great class. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. So with this point about this desire to lord over and this sense of ego, it's basically a sense of this is mine, I want, so I think we've kind of touched upon this in different contexts in this but I think the main essential thing that comes out is there's this emphasis on material success in the world. You have a child, you have expectations of him. I have parents who have expectations of me. We have work, we have supervisors who have expectations of us. And there's this general, there's the situation in the world right now as it is material success is the most important in the world in general. It's the what's respected is material success, and at all levels. It's but obviously, I mean, everyone who's here, we're of course here because we aspire to sort of put into practice what you're talking about, is that everything is ultimately for God, for Krishna, for however you call God. So this, so you're a mother, you have a husband, you're raising a child, you have way more my responsibility are just my parents, my work, and just, surviving. But, you get this, you see this, this contradiction between what's emphasized in the world, the expectations of all our dearest people, versus what Krishna consciousness is about, which is everything is for Krishna, everything is for God. It's not about me. Nirmamo nidhankara. That's the ideal, right? So, I was wondering, I guess through the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, through your studies, through all of yours, your society, what's the approach in ISKCON towards, kind of approaching this conflict of, it's just what the situation is. It's nobody's fault. It's not parents' fault that they want their child to be the best. It's not the supervisor's fault that he wants the best out of his workers. Mm-hmm. It's not the world's fault that the world wants money more than anything. And of course, Krishna delivered the Bhagavad Gita, as all spiritual paths are saying a similar thing. All is for God. All is nirmamo nirankara. Offer everything to your father, to Krishna, however you call him. So this, this contradiction in ISKCON, I was wondering, what's you're raising a child. What's your approach, I guess? What's your approach? What's ISKCON's approach? And I guess all of you who are regularly, practicing Krishna consciousness, what's the...
Fantastic question. When I was new to Krishna consciousness, I had the same feeling. Like, one way we have to offer everything spiritually, and Krishna is mentioning that offer everything to me as well, and then we have to gratify Krishna's senses. Not a very pro, but I will try and understand or make you understand what I've understood, and then we have Prabhuji's and Mataji's here to help. But it's like dovetailing everything in Krishna consciousness, I would say. For an example, if I am a foodie, then I go cook delicious prasadam without no eggs, no meat, no garlic and onion, then I offer it to the Lord and then have it, right? So I have a family, so I have aspiration to raise my son in Krishna consciousness as much as possible, so that it's a service to Krishna to raise the children in Krishna consciousness. I have husband, I would serve him because we all are devotee, we all are children of Krishna. And then we go to work, we bring the money, we offer it to the Lord as Nitya Seva every single month. And it's like going to work is one thing material, but then when you go to work and bring back the result and offer it to Krishna, it's spiritual. Like you cook the food, which is material, but when you offer it to the Lord, it's going to be spiritual, right? And you take it as prasadam. So similarly, going to office, doing our regular duty is a part of life. When you come to material world, it's not only you. We would have family, we would have responsibilities, we would have parents, and we'd have to take care of them as a matter of duty and as a matter of service to Krishna. I don't know if it's relatable to not, but then if we see father and mother as different part, and then ourselves as a different community, then if you go to Mahabharata, Bhishma, they wouldn't have to sacrifice so much for his father to get married to a lady. He said, being a Kshatriya, I'm not going to get married. Being a Kshatriya, I'm going to serve eternally till I'm alive to the family of Dhritarashtra and his offspring. That means somehow or other he was doing his duty, and that's why his name was Bhishma Dev. I often remember when my grandfather, if he has to promise something, he's like Bhishma Pratigya. So that means it's like the word of Bhishma Dev that he's not going to back up. So every time till day I remember, if he's 93 now, if he says something, he has to say like Bhishma Pratigya. So that is how it used to be taken, or it's taken. So in a sense I would say it's like dovetailing everything in Krishna consciousness. Rather you go to job, you have a son, you have parents, they all are part of Krishna's energy, and then we have to take care, we have to dovetail everything in Krishna consciousness and move forward. I don't know if that answered, but that is how I move on. But then supervisor thinking you do a better job is a part of life. I have supervisor, he stresses 24/7 around me, my neck, I perform, he's happy, and that's it. So yeah, it's probably time for Kirtan, 5:30. I thank you all.
There's time for one more question.
One more question. One more question? I was trying to save my bag, but yes, Ramji. Nice to see you back, Ramji.
Nice to see you. Thank you for a wonderful class. Very dynamic.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Just recently I was discussing about how Krishna provides. And so the discussion was about, we know that Krishna provides everything which is needed, but how to come from theory to real feeling or realization that he really provides, how not to worry about things coming in my life, like all the necessities.
Today we were listening to Gaura Natras Prabhuji, and Nitacharan Prabhuji was there, where he was mentioning he went to Vrindavan and he had only 1,000 rupees. And he was thinking to ask the money from his parents, but he said like, it's too much, I've asked enough. So for the first time, I'm going to depend on Krishna and see how it goes. Just today morning he said this, and probably that's practical to you. And he was asked to present with music, and then he was paid there. And then another Prabhuji donated because he was a monk. And he said that at the end of the whole thing, he had 10,000 rupees. And I think the whole thing is coming from surrender and having faith in the Lord. If I don't have faith and then I chant or probably I pray, then probably it won't be fulfilled. So faith is the main thing. The 9 limbs we learn, it begins from faith itself, and the last